Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm JP Tong. I'm now at Kechara Forest Retreat, Malaysia. And thank you for tuning in to Thursday Paranormal Tales. How is everyone doing this evening? Let's see who has tuned in. Yes, today I will be sharing with you stories of, paranormal stories that I grew up with that used to freak me out before I started, having my own paranormal experiences. So before I start, I will wait for more of you guys to tune in. So how has your day been? My goodness, my grammar. Pastor Jenna is laughing at me now. So as you can see, I have a very nice setting here. This is in Enchanted Forest. It's at the back garden, and I use this place for my morning meditations that I have every Saturday and Sunday 8:30 Malaysian time. So if you're into meditation, do join me, because I'm doing what am I doing? Oh yeah, I'm doing sound bathing meditation. Yes, sorry, it's been a long day. Okay, hi Jerry, hi Bradley. Thank you for tuning in. Hi Pastor Antoinette. Hi Iman, hi Audrey, how's Singapore? I see that you're feasting away. Hi Andrew, hope you're doing well in Bali. Hi Batku, hi Jason, hi Cockdwen. Yeah, so today I'm all alone. And I realized that I have many stories, paranormal stories that I grew up with that my mom would used to tell me, and my relatives who used to tell me. That was why when I was young, I was really afraid of ghosts. I mean, I love to hear them, but I always say if I ever see one, I think I would not survive it. I would have a heart attack and just die. That's what I always thought. Who's getting fat, me or you, Audrey? Hi, cousin. Okay, so now I'll start sharing with you my stories from my mother, and they're very interesting because my mother used to tell me that her grandfather, which is her mother's father, used to be a medium in China, and he was a medium who would actually take trance of a healing deity. I don't know what it is. I've never asked, but I just accepted it. So, and apparently my great-grandfather, so it's my mother's father, he was a very well-known medium who would actually go around his village healing people. And he was always in white, apparently. He would wear the Chinese white cheongsam, the male version, and he would wear white shoes. And I was told he was very psychic. But my grandmother used to tell my mom that every time when her father went out to treat patients, and there'll be like a snowstorm, and when he came back, his shoes were not tainted at all. They were just white. And she said that she remembered when she was young, she would see his dad out of the house, and from far, it looked like his father was, when he was walking on the snow, his feet never quite touched the snow. It was as though he was levitating. And it was something that my grandmother grew up with, just accepting the fact that the father had this supernatural ability, and he would be, and she just accepted it because he was a medium, yeah. And I was told that every time when her house, because he was a medium, so there was like a mini shrine in the house, and every time when the incense, because they would be lighting incense throughout the day, and she used to say that when the incense was more fragrant than usual, the father would say, "Oh, we have a guest arriving. We have a guest coming," and sure enough, a guest would actually show up to ask my great grandfather for help. Yeah, so I was always very fascinated with that, but unfortunately, my grandmother never learned the art of healing through taking trance. So she never learned, and she also said that when she first gave birth to the first two children, the first and second, in the Chinese tradition, once the wife gives birth, the husband has to go back to the wife's family to report, to give an update, for the birth of their son. And according to my mom, when my grandfather went to report to update his father-in-law, he actually told him, don't celebrate, he said, because your son would not make it to like a certain date, because he's just here to pay back his karma. And he couldn't believe it, and he couldn't believe what he heard, because they were all very young, and he didn't understand what's all this payback, this karmic payback and all that. So sure enough, according to my mom, her eldest sibling passed away, just like that. There were no signs. There was nothing wrong with the baby, but he just didn't make it. And when the second child was born, it was the same thing. Then when the third one came, which is my uncle, he was fine. So it runs in the family that they have these what do you call it, paranormal experience or psychic experience? What do you call these, supernatural experience? Something like that. Yeah. Okay. So and then my mom. So that's my great grandfather. And there were a lot of stories, but I forgot, because I used to listen to them when I was very, very young, and my mom would actually tell me about my great grandfather. Well, unfortunately, I've not met him because he was in China. So moving along, my mom told me once that when she was very young, I think she was maybe around 9-10 years old, and they used to live in Bidor in Perak, which is a very small town north of Kuala Lumpur. And she said that there was one night, as she was walking up the steps of her house, and she heard people running in her house, running out of the house, and she saw people dressed in red. She said people dressed in red running out of the house. So she was very fascinated, because she said that she didn't remember seeing any visitors coming to her house, but as she was going up to her room to sleep, she saw people in red. So because she was so young, so she was fascinated, and she told my grandmother about it. And as soon as my grandmother heard about it, she turned on the lights all night. And my mom said that she turned off because she couldn't sleep. So she tried to turn off the lights in her bedroom, and the mom scolded her. She's like, "No, don't turn off the lights. Turn on the lights for tonight." And she didn't know what was going on. And sure enough, in the middle of the night, my grandmother screamed at the top of her lungs, and she said, "Everyone, get out now!" And apparently, what happened was there was some wires in the house that electrocuted, and it created sparks, and the house went up in flames. So my grandmother said later on that these people in red were in Taoism, they are called they are like deities of the fire, and in Chinese tradition, according to my grandmother, when you see a group of people wearing red running out from your house, it is a sign that there is a fire, that there's going to be a fire. Isn't that amazing? And I was always very fascinated when I was a kid, because I was like, wow, my mom could see all these things really cool. And she said that ever since that, she has never seen it before. So she always said, every time when you see something like that, you have to stay vigilant and alert, because most likely there will be a fire. Yeah, so I don't know what that is. So if you have heard of this deity, perhaps you can share with me. Okay, so what did Cochran write here? I remember my mother used to consult the medium of local deities. Pretty scary, but I always had doubts about these mediums. Hi Nancy, good evening. Yeah, so that was the fire deity story that I remember very vividly. And then there's one that's really fascinating because my grandmother was a Taoist, but she became a Buddhist because of this incident. When this was before my mom was born, this is my third aunt. My mom is number 4. So when my third aunt was just born, it was during the World War, and there were and every night there would be the Japanese would be bombing Malaysia, and they would be hiding in their house. So one day or one night, I mean it was like a daily affair, I was told, and one night when the Japanese flew the bombers over the village, they actually struck near the house, and the entire house started to collapse. And my third aunt was just born. I was told she was only a few months old, and she was in a crib. So my grandparents grabbed all my uncle and my other aunts to run out of the house, but they could not grab hold of my third aunt in time. So the entire house actually collapsed, and it fell flat. So after the bombing was over, my grandparents went to search in the rubble for my third aunt, and just looking for the body, and they were thinking, that's it. There's no way that the baby would have survived because the entire house collapsed. So as they were going through the as they were going through the rubble, my grandmother said it was very strange. Actually, my mother told my mom that it was very strange, because as they were digging in, all of a sudden they dug in, and because back then the colonial, those townhouses, the colonial townhouses in Malaysia, they're all made of timber. So it's very strange because the whole thing collapsed, but there was like a cave. Somehow when it collapsed, it didn't fall flat onto my third aunt. It was like protected. So, so just visualizes this cave like that, and she was right in the middle. And she was fine, not even a scratch. And as she was carrying my third aunt from the crib, my mom said that my grandmother saw Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin is the Buddha of compassion. She's known as Avalokiteshvara in Sanskrit, and in Tibetan Chenrezig. So she was standing there watching. And she said that it was a good few minutes because as she was saving my third aunt, she was there all the time. So she was so she said that she attributed that to Kuan Yin, because there was no way that my third aunt would have survived that. And my mom said that ever since then, they rebuilt the house and all that. And every night when my grandmother would actually try to get my third aunt to sleep on the crib, she would see Kuan Yin standing in a distance next to a well, because in the olden days, there's a well on the ground level. So as my grandmother was trying to get my aunt to sleep, she would always stand there. And as soon as my third aunt fell asleep, she would leave. And because of that, my mom said that's why my grandmother believed in Kuan Yin and actually started praying to her. And because of that, she also took a vow not to eat beef because in the Chinese Buddhist tradition, if you pray to Kuan Yin or the Buddha of Compassion, you're not supposed to eat beef. So she took that vow. So yeah, and I thought that was very fascinating, very, very fascinating. And yeah, so throughout my life, throughout my third aunt's life, she's been very blessed and very well protected. I think she has a strong affinity with Kuan Yin. But you see, whether or not she's really Kuan Yin, I don't know. There's no way to verify it. But what I know is that she appeared before my grandmother, according to my grandmother, and that my third aunt survived. And my mom said that every time when my third aunt refused to fall asleep, again, Kuan Yin will appear. And somehow when she appears, like the entire environment will be very peaceful. And then she'll wait for my third aunt to fall asleep before she leaves. Isn't that fascinating? Yeah, so I asked my third aunt whether or not she has seen Kuan Yin, and she said no. I mean, she doesn't remember, but my grandmother remembers it very, very vividly. Yeah, so that was one of the fascinating stories that my mom used to tell us. Then she had quite a lot, but I don't quite remember offhand. But then, when I went to the States, then I have my other aunt. This is Audrey's. This is my cousin's relatives. So we are relatives by marriage. Anyway, they used to live in Singapore. Although they're from Hong Kong, they moved to Singapore, and they have a lot of stories because that house that they moved into was very haunted. Yeah, Audrey, so I'm sure you remember this. And according to this aunt, she said that when they first arrived at the house, they saw an old man walking into the house. And they were young kids then, they were like, I think early teens. And so my aunt said that when she went in, she was looking around for the old man, but she never found this old man. So she didn't, because they were kids, so they didn't think twice about it. But as they moved in, they started experiencing a lot of paranormal activities. And there was one particular story that was really scary. And this was with the youngest aunt, because she's a chicken, you see. So, and all the girls stayed in one room apparently, if I remember this correctly. They all stayed in one room, and this younger aunt, she would have her bed next to a window, okay, and she said because she's such a chicken, and that spirit knew that she was such a chicken. Every night, he would walk in front, because her bed is, she said, right next to the window. So he would stand outside the window and he would go like this. Like very loud sighs. Can you go like that? Can you imagine? So she said she would freak out, and she'll be like trembling, under her blanket, and she'll be so terrified, and I said, so what do you do? Well, she said that she was so terrified, so she prayed. She's Catholic, so she prayed. Then he would leave, but it's every night for years. She said that he would actually come and have this heavy sighing outside her window. All right? And she said that, and she's the one who actually asked me the question when I first had my paranormal experience in New York. She said, the first thing she asked me is, what was it? She said, what? Did you have any experience of the spirit brushing his teeth? Brushing teeth. I was like, spirits brushing teeth? Remember that episode? It was the very first few episodes that I spoke to you about what my first experience. And I thought about it, I was like, oh yeah. Because she said, have you ever had a stench on your toothbrush? And it's a stench of decay, like very earthy, musky decay. And I said, oh yes, because why? It was very interesting, because it was just, a week or two before I met her, and she asked me that question. And I said, yes, I do remember. And I thought that it was my apartment mate. You know how, like when we were kids, right? The American kids would actually do a lot of pranks on you. So I thought that my apartment mate used my toothbrush to brush the bathroom. That's what I thought. And I described the smell, because I still remember it. And she said, no, it's confirmed. It's a spirit. So how did she realize that? It was because she told me that every night after after he has finished sighing outside her window, he would go to a bathroom and started brushing his teeth. And you hear somebody brushing his teeth. And every morning, she would pick up her toothbrush, and there was always a stench. And I was very curious. I'm like, but they're spirits. Why would they have teeth? So when I was and she told me this when I was a teenager. So I could never figure out how would they have teeth? But now that I have studied more of Buddhism, on Buddhism and my personal and my experiences, I think it's because this old man, this was his daily routine, brushing his teeth. So he was just going through his routine when he was staying in the house. And you see, and the scary thing is, then much later, my aunt told me that they found out that the previous owner was this old man who hung himself in that house. And after he hung himself, it was the house was put up for sale. So she said that it must be that old man who hung himself and who used to be the previous owner. And there were a lot of other paranormal activities there, which I don't remember already, but it was one of those moments that I told myself that, again, if I see spirits, I'm going to have a heart attack. It was a lot of scary things, because this old man, this spirit, would actually keep scaring this aunt of mine. And he would do it every day for many, many, many years. Yeah, so Audrey says, yes, goodness, almost all their houses were haunted when they were kids. Yeah, I think they have this affinity with that. And also, not only do they have affinity with spirits, this family have affinity with having visions. Whether or not they're real, I don't know. But my aunt, my aunt who married my uncle, this is my second uncle's wife. It's his family, so it's my extended relatives. She told me that there was once when they were kids, because she was the eldest daughter, and in their house, they all saw Mother Mary. I don't remember why, like on what occasion, but they all saw, and they all knelt. They all knelt down, and they started doing their prayers. So they've had a lot of these experiences. So not just with spirits, but with Mother Mary, and also another, which led me to another. I start to remember, in the States, in New Jersey, there is a church. Again, it's a Catholic church, and Audrey, I don't know. Yeah, Audrey is not in Singapore. Remember your mom told us there was once she came back from church with one of your aunts, and she said that, I forgot which aunt. She has a lot of aunts, so I forgot. She came back and she was so exhilarated because why? As they were kneeling down in front of the Mother Mary statue, and they were doing the prayers, and when they looked up, your mother told me, Audrey, that she saw the statue of Mother Mary. She saw her lips moving, and she nudged her sister, and to like look up, and they both saw her lips moving. It was as though, her prayers were being answered. So I remember her coming back from church and she was talking about it, incessantly to all of us. Do you remember that, Audrey? You were pretty young then, so I don't know whether or not you remember that story, but I remember it very, vividly, because it was going on and on and on and on for days, telling all her siblings and how fascinated they were. Yeah? Okay, so do we have any questions so far? Hi, Aaron. Hi. What is this, Singapore Ophir? Oh, this is where your mother's family stayed, right? Yeah, so they have this ability to see both the holy and the spirits. But again, whether or not Mother Mary whether it's really Mother Mary, I have no way to verify that, but that's what they have been telling me. Yeah, and it's not just one person, it is the whole family actually sees this and experience the same thing together. Okay, do you have any questions so far? Isn't that fascinating? Yes. Oh yes, it's Auntie Pat and your mother who saw Mother Mary. That's right, for the first time. That's right, it was Auntie Pat. Yes, and your family has a strong affinity to Mother Mary. Yeah, and that's why they're very staunch Catholics. And they go to pilgrimage in Lourdes in France all the time. Lourdes. So if you have the opportunity, you should go there. Okay, so that was my story of my aunt. Any questions so far? No questions. Well, that was easy. So just in case you ask me what prayers they did, they said that they used to do the Catholic prayers, and it works because then the spirit would actually go away. Okay, so they're very staunch Catholics, so they would do all the Catholic prayers, and it works for them. So so in a nutshell, if the prayers are done sincerely, with compassion, then spirits will actually go away because they are moved by compassion. No matter how evil they are, if you actually operate from, or if your intention is from compassion, they will actually calm down. That's what actually happens. They will calm down, and they will not bother you. That's what happens. So Friona asks, what's the difference between Christian method of exorcism and Buddhist exorcism? I have not really experienced Christian exorcism besides watching movies. The Christians will, in the name of God or in the name of Jesus Christ, is according to movies. I don't know whether or not it's real. So if you're a Christian and you have such an experience, perhaps you can share with us. But for Buddhist exorcism that I have seen with my teacher, it's really all talk. It's about talking to the spirit, and with a lot of love and with a lot of care, and trying to get the spirit to get out, to actually leave the person's body. There's no fancy rituals or whatever. It's my teacher talking to the spirit. Well, I guess because my teacher is a very highly attained person, so So he's able to just talk very nicely, like, like talking to any person who is having issues. So it's with a lot of love and care. And Rinpoche would actually tell me that that's what we need to do when we encounter spirits, is to give them a lot of love and a lot of compassion, because they are suffering in that realm. So when we show them with love and care and compassion, usually they would calm down. Then after they've calmed down and left the person alone, that's where the person needs to purify his or her karma, so that the spirits will not have the opportunity to possess them or to create disturbances. Okay, and that is done hand in hand. Yeah, so it will take a few months depending on the severity. Well, yeah, on the severity of the disturbance, and of course the person's karma, how strong it is. How strong is the person's karma to the spirit realm? Okay, so once you have purified your karma to be disturbed by spirits, then even if a spirit is standing in front of you, they won't disturb you. They won't disturb, or they do disturb, but they won't cause harm. That's the key here. Because although I have been purifying my karma to receive spirit disturbances, remember my episodes where I said that there was a spirit that actually attacked me when I was in LA and was pressing down on me. Yeah, so yeah, it tried to attack me, but it didn't harm me. And when I asked Rinpoche, to clarify, because I have been doing this purification practices for many, many years, and still I could be affected. Rinpoche said it's because my karma with the spirit realm is actually very, very strong, very, very strong. So, but definitely they will not be able to harm me. Okay, so when I was pressed down, I did my prayers and I blessed the spirit, and because it had evil intentions, it actually repelled. Yeah, so that's what happens. Okay, so so that's my experience with Buddhist exorcism. So if you have Christian exorcism that you can share, please, by all means, share with us here. Frion asks, what is the Buddhist definition on demon and ghost? Is there a difference? Well, a demon can also be a spirit, but a demon is actually a spirit that has been around for many, 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 many lifetimes, for a very long time, and they have very strong, because the negative intention is so strong that they become just pure evil. There are such things. We can become demons if we are not careful, because if we keep feeding that negativity in us, we keep feeding it, it will become so strong that it will take a very, very long time for the person to actually get out of it, to get out of that state of being a demon. And this all arises from selfishness. When we're extremely selfish, I mean, you don't even have to look at demons. You can just look at people around us. There's some people, I'm not sure if you've met, because they're just so into themselves, and it's all about them, and we call them evil because they're just so self-centered, so to a point that they don't even have any empathy, and they don't even have any conscience. You know how people say that there are some people who can actually kill their grandmother just for money? There are people like that. They are. And I have friends who say, I still remember, I have a friend who said to me just earlier this year, he said, JP, I can't do what you do because I'm a very selfish person. He said that to me. And I was glad that he was being so blatantly honest. And I said, oh, okay. Well, I said, well, don't say never, but let's see what happens. He said he can never do charity. He'd rather sit at home and do nothing and be bored than to do charity and help others. And that's because he was born in a family of privilege, and he had a very successful career, and he had an early retirement, and he just travels the world, and that's it. So it's a lot of indulgence, and it's a lot of just serving being self-centered. And he just could not, he told me, for the life of him, he could not do charity. It's just not in him. So you see, and that's how unfortunate it is, because when we actually do that, then that's where we lay the karma for us to be even more selfish and more selfish and more selfish, to a point that there's no longer empathy. There's no longer kindness, empathy, nothing. It's about serving my pleasures, serving, just indulging. Just indulging. And that's what it is. And that's why a lot of times they reincarnate as spirits, because, you cause equal effects. So you take on the effect of whatever it is that you've been creating for yourself. So if it's a lifetime of being self-centered, then you will continue after you have passed away, and that's what it is. And if you fast forward that to a trillion lifetimes, then the negativity just becomes worse and worse and worse and worse until it becomes pure evil, and that's the danger. That's the danger. Okay. So, Freon, can a person who has psychiatric problem easily be influenced by spirit? Whether you have psychiatric problem or not, it all depends on your karma. It depends on the karma whether or not you are easily influenced. It's not because you have a mental health issue that you are prone to spirit disturbances. It's not that. That's just two totally different things. Okay, Freon? Aaron, how many times do we need to chant mantra in order to purify the negative karmas? Well, for me, I've been chanting ever since I met Rinpoche, which is it's been 13 years. It's been 13 years I've been chanting, and I don't think I'll ever stop. So yeah, just keep reciting. And anyway, after you purified your karma to receive spirit disturbances, you can, because you are generating very good energies around you through the prayers. So it would also help us with our other aspects of our lives. Okay? So don't stop. Don't stop. Okay? Freon says, yes, it is very shocking to know that there are people who can't do charity. Oh, there are many. Yeah, Freon, there are many people who just can't. They cannot put themselves in a position to help others. Yeah. So, and I have many friends who are like that. They're all over. It's just that they don't talk about it because they know that it's not something very noble to talk about. Yeah, but my friend was very honest. He just told me point blank. Okay, so moving along. Now, then there's one. When I was in New York during my college days, this friend of mine told me that when he was in high school in Hawaii, he was in boarding school, and he said that his boarding school was very, very haunted, and they'll be terrified to go to the bathroom because there is a headless spirit that would haunt the bathrooms every night. So, and in boarding school they had shared bathrooms. So it was a public bathroom, that all the guys have to share. So he said that one night, when he went to the bathroom to take a pee, and he saw something just like drift past him, and because he was just half asleep, so he woke up because it was strange, he said. And he took a good look, and he said that it was a headless spirit. And he has heard of it before, but it was the first time that he saw it. So it was a headless spirit. So the spirit drifted around without a head, and what was even scarier is the head was drifting around by itself without the body. So can you imagine in high school that you actually see this, and it was notorious apparently in school. So the kids would be frightful of going to the bathroom, and he saw it. So he said that that was it. He refused to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. He would just wait till the morning. And I would say, are you sure that that's what you saw? Because that's really scary. He said, yes, he saw it. He said it was very vivid, and it was just like levitating, just like walking around and levitating around and just going around the bathroom, outside the bathroom, and he saw it through the windows. And he's a free thinker, so he didn't do any prayers, nothing. So he just ran back to his room and never went back to the bathroom in the middle of the night. So when I heard that, you can imagine, when we were all in college, it was really, really frightening when I heard that. Okay, and oh yes, this is when I was very, very young. My parents' friend, I still remember this. I think I was like maybe 10, 11 years old. And my parents' friends lived in Kuala Lumpur somewhere. I shall not say where, but it was very haunted because her sister, younger sister, lives in a bedroom downstairs. It's a 2-story house. So she lived downstairs, near to where the kitchen is. And apparently, because ever since they moved into the house, every night the younger sister would be fighting with the spirit, because the spirit would push the sister out of her bed. And she used to have fist fights with the spirit. And it was like an all day, it was a nightly affair. So then I remember them telling my mom, and I happened to be there. She said that they went to the temple and asked a master, like, why is it that the house is so haunted? Because they just bought it and they just renovated it. So how could they get rid of it? So in the temple there was a master, and I think it was a medium, if I remember correctly. So there was a medium who took trance of a deity, and the deity said that because the entire estate where they built all these houses, it was actually built on a cemetery. And yes, although they have removed all the coffins and all that, there's one coffin that's directly under her house. Directly under her house. And they couldn't move it because the house is actually built on top of it. Can you imagine? Then when she heard it, she was a bit taken aback, just like, oh God, what else can she do? And there was really no solution according to her. So she consulted a feng shui master, a geomancy master, to go to her house. And she said that it was very strange because, because the feng shui master would hold on to this compass, this feng shui compass, and it would actually show. And she didn't say anything to this feng shui master, and he would walk around the house with this compass. And apparently when he walked to the sister's room, the compass, because in the compass there's a needle. So the needle was spinning around like crazy, totally out of control, and he was shocked. And when he looked at the compass, he said there's something in the ground. Underneath the sister's bed, there's something there. And after much investigation, now this is the feng shui master, so after much investigation, he said there's somebody buried there. And he said that the energy there, it's so strong that it made the compass spin like crazy. And she said, I remember her saying that when and she couldn't believe it, because when the feng shui master took that compass out of the room to other parts of the house, it was back to normal. And every time when the compass went back into the room, it started spinning again. And then there was nothing that they could do. There was nothing. So they said the only way is you have to demolish your house and dig out the coffin. Because there was no way. And the reason why the spirit was fighting with the sister every night was because the spirit felt that the sister was in his territory because it was right above his coffin. So he did not want her to stay there because he was in his place. And this went on for years. I think if I remember correctly, after a few years, can you imagine? After a few years, they decided to move out. Only after a few years. So I remember that vividly, and there was nothing they could do. They invited many Taoist masters, and there was nothing that they could do to get rid of it because the coffin was right in the ground. Okay, let's see. Any questions? Aaron. Hi, Aaron. Is there a delay of karma whether it's negative or positive? Yes, of course. Our karma arises every second of the day, depending on the conditions that trigger it. So the way we choose to behave, the things we choose to say, the thoughts that we entertain, things that we do. So again, cause equals effect. So if we keep going at something, we keep working on something and we keep working on something, most likely we will create the karma for that to arise. So so definitely there is delayed karma. And that's why it's very important that regardless of whatever religion that you believe in, it is always advisable to do some prayers with the motivation of pure compassion. Pure compassion means unconditional love. Unconditional love. And that is what moves even the spirits. It moves them tremendously. Okay, because I remember that when I see spirits, and Rinpoche and my teacher always says that when I recite the prayers, always come from compassion. Always shower them with a lot of love. Because why? Because they need our help. The reason why they are born in the spirit realm is because they are so attached to a certain thing when they were in the human realm that they could, and it was so strongly attached to them that they couldn't let go. So it can be the family members, it can be their house, their pet, their money, the car, whatever it is that they're so attached to. That's why after they pass away, they take rebirth in the spirit realm and they come back to relive that attachment. And it's beyond their control. Because when they were alive, they did not learn to control it. So because they became so attached and so quote unquote addicted to that, that's why they come back to relive it. And they just relive the moment again and again and again and again, and they cannot help it. And that's why when I do experience, these spirits, yes, I do feel the sadness. I do feel the sadness, and I do feel that they're very lost, and I do feel that they just cannot help it. And they're just caught up in this feeling of loneliness, very, very deep loneliness. It's so heavy, and sadness that it really sucks your energy. So that's why when I do prayers for them with a lot of compassion, I can actually, and it's strange because once you tap into that part of us, which is natural in us, you feel a gush of love just coming out when you're reciting. And you just don't know how to explain it. And it's so moving sometimes that it actually moves you to tears as you're reciting. It's very strange. It is a very, very strange phenomenon. Yeah. So for those of you, if as and when you do see spirits, again, there's nothing to be fearful of, but use a lot of compassion and tap into that loving nature in us and recite whatever prayers that you know of. And if you don't know of any prayers, well, quickly look for some prayers to do. If not, if you're into energy healing, then send out a lot of love and light. That's what they always say. Send out a lot of love and light. Just give out a lot of loving energy, and it actually does help. It actually does help. Okay? So, Kirsten says, hi Kirsten. There's news few years back where a Buddha statue mouth was moving and floated in the air a few times. Everyone that center saw and it was captured, posted in YouTube. It happened a few times. The center in Jalan Ipoh. Oh, I didn't know of that. I used to visit that center quite frequently to see Master Chu, who is the owner of the center with clairvoyance ability. I was in my 20s at that time. He is still there, I think, because I heard news about him sometimes. Well, that's interesting. I have not seen that before. Talking about Buddha statues, I don't know whether Pastor Junai has this, but just last week, did you hear about that, about our Genzei statue? Oh, you didn't hear that? It was in the community thread. Okay, you got to check this out, all right? We have a Buddha statue called the Genzei statue. Okay, it showed, quote unquote, a miracle. And I'll tell you what happened. One of our members, she is like a temple keeper, and she would always go to the Genzei chapel, which is right outside at the wall, right at the fence of Kechara Forest Retreat. It's open 24/7. It is a Buddha of wisdom, but in a protective form. And it is a form where it increases both inner and outer wealth. So spiritual abundance and outer abundance. So she and a volunteer was cleaning up the chapel, as she would always do once a week. And as they were cleaning the chapel, they saw tears streaming down the eyes. Now you remember. Yeah. So tears streaming down. And I didn't know because she was so excited. Actually, not excited. She was just pretty matter of fact. And she took her phone and she zoomed into the face, and she didn't have a caption. She just posted it on our group thread. And for the life of me, I didn't know what was happening. So I was just looking at it, and I heard in the background her saying, "Look! There are tears streaming down the Buddha's eyes." And it kept streaming down. It kept streaming down. Oh, here it is. Can you see? What? This is a. Oh, sorry. Whoops. This is the video. Can you guys see it? Do you see it?
It's not playing.
No, but it's not playing.
You want to play it?
But you can't really see it though. Is it clear?
Ish.
Is it playing?
Yeah, it's playing.
Should I put it closer?
Yeah.
You see, it may not show up, but you will actually see tears streaming down the eye. And they will actually talk about it. You see that? You see like some water stain streaming down? That's it. And this is in a chapel, so it's indoors, and this is during the day. It's just this during the day. So, isn't that fascinating? So, and I was told by my teacher that a lot of prayers were done to this statue, and that in the near future it will show miraculous signs. Yeah, and yeah. So Rinpoche actually, during his prayers, as he was consecrating the statue, you see, because in Buddhism, when you consecrate the statue, you actually invite the Buddha to come and reside in the statue. And because my teacher is a very highly attained holy monk, he has that ability to actually request the Buddha to actually show signs. And he actually, during the prayers, we all heard Rinpoche requesting the Buddha to show signs. And this is actually one of the many signs that the statue has shown. Many. Yeah, so, wow. I've not had the time to go and take a look, because this is a statue that I actually went to get it made. Yes, I was very lucky. It was my first assignment from Rinpoche to make a Buddha statue, so I had to fly all the way to China to the factory and get it done. So I'm very happy that it's actually showing miraculous signs. Is that fascinating? So, okay, moving along. Bradley, how do you help somebody who is very attached to something? Oh. Well, first of all, you have to explain the disbenefit of being too attached. I mean, all of us are attached, Bradley, but it's just to what degree. You can always check your mind. If you, whatever it is that you're attached to, if you don't have it, do you crave for it? Do you feel unsettled? Do you feel like if you don't have it, then your world is going to fall apart, and you just can't stop thinking about it? So that is very strong attachment. It's almost like an addiction. You know how some people are addicted to drugs. When you don't have it, you cannot sit, you cannot sleep. There's a lot of things. Your whole world just falls apart because you're so addicted to it. It's the same thing. Okay, so that is why during my mindful morning meditation, when we do meditation, I actually talk about how the mind works. So you can actually check it out, and it's all been recorded already. So you can check out the 60 over episodes that I have spoken and featured for the last few months, and I talk about it. And I also talk about how you can actually slowly take baby steps to be less attached. When we have something, we cherish it, but know that it is impermanent, that it will come and it will go. So, but that takes time, you see, because we've been so conditioned to grasp onto things that we like, and we just want to hold on to it, thinking that it will last our lifetime. But a lot of times it does not. And even if it does last for a lifetime, we will need to let go at death. We will still need to let go at death. So that's the most painful and most dangerous part, because when you only let go at death, you actually don't let go. Because why? It's been decades of just being so attached to a certain item, to a certain place, whatever it is that we're so attached to, to certain people, that even at death, the last thing on your mind is that thing or that person. And definitely you reincarnate and you come back as a spirit, and you will be hovering around that thing or the person. And you just can't help yourself, and you just keep reliving that experience over and over and over again. Okay? So, wrapping up. Kirsten asked, do our past karmas form affect our character in our current life? Definitely does. Just like how much time we spent conditioning ourselves the last 20, 30, 40 years is how you are today. So if you want to change the way that you are in this life, like now, if you want to change the way you are in the next 10 years, then you got to change the way you do things now. It all starts with the now. So however we are now and whatever we are now is because of what we have done in the previous years and in the previous lives. Okay? So, so I think that's it for now. So I hope that you had enjoyed today's session. I just thought that, that I can share with you stories that I grew up with. And I've always lived with this experience, with these stories, so I thought I'd share that with all of you. Okay, so before I go, I have to thank our sponsors. Almost forgot. Yeah. Okay, so today's program is sponsored by Yo Miao Ki, dedication with the merit of this benefit numerous sentient beings around the world and in this realm below and free all from suffering and pain. Next sponsor, Chung and Family, dedication. May many people find benefit from the kindness of this program. And the third dedication sponsor is Anonymous, dedication. May all beings find lasting inner peace and happiness. May all become kind, wise, and have unwavering determination to benefit all beings. Thank you very much for your sponsorship, because it is through your sponsorship that we are able to sustain our online program. So if you wish to make a contribution, do look for the link at the end of this video. Okay? And last but not least, now next week, Thursday, we will not have our paranormal program because it is the eve of my teacher's passing away. It is the anniversary because Rinpoche passed away last year on September the 4th. So we will be having his first year anniversary prayer session on the 4th. So on the 3rd, we will be making a lot of preparation. So we'll be very, very busy, and we'll be having a lot of volunteers here to help set up. Okay, so I'm very sorry, so I will not be able to share with you all next week. But then the week after, we'll have the program again. All right, so thank you very much for tuning in. And for those of you who do join me for my meditation class every weekend, we will be having a weekend meditation. Okay, so I'll see you guys. And for those of you who only join me on Paranormal, I'll see you 2 weeks from now. All right, take care. Bye.